you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody who do you want. Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Mega power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling, dealing.
Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of Talk 'em in the Building, where here I'm joined by my wrestling pals, my compatriots, my comrades, as we delve into the art, the beauty, and the downright joy of the professional wrestling promo. For today's episode, we are looking at the truth talkers, those promo talkers that make us truly believe the words that are coming out of their mouths, that make us question what's reality and what's truth. And if you're new here, go ahead and like, comment, and if you enjoyed these conversations, give us a repeat listen. You're not going to regret it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, wherever platform that you're listening to this on or watching us on. And I'm fortunate and I'm elated to be joined by Adrian and Greg in this venture, and just asking how we doing tonight, fellas.
Feeling great, man.
Feeling good, man. It's I'm ready to get on this one. This is gonna be interesting tonight. This one's gonna be real interesting tonight.
It will be very interesting. I think that's where the idea came from. And before we dive in, I think we always try to link this into something more personal. And the question for tonight, to get us kind of going, is thinking about your own life, thinking about our everyday interactions. This idea of a truth talker, right? Someone who questions, who makes you believe, who really bring out, you see that passion in the way that they speak. Who's someone who was a truth talker in your own daily life, whether it was when you were younger or maybe a work setting or maybe day-to-day relationships? Who would be that truth talker for you?
Man, that's a wild question, right? I mean, I don't know if there's somebody necessarily daily that jumps out and just says, boom, this is that person. But when that question came up, I started thinking about a couple of old bosses I had. And they were just straight up. No sugarcoating. They were humorous. They had good personalities, but they didn't sugarcoat crap. And I remember one time I had to, unfortunately, terminate somebody, and the way they broke it down of like, here's how to do it, and it was just like, man, it was straight heel promo, but it was like in a way that you don't make the other person feel that way, right? It was just very much cut dry, take the emotion out, do this, do that, and the truth that they hit me with was like, man, when you did it, you were like, I get it. And they gave the reason behind it, right? And I think that was the other part, is that they totally understood. Because when you first hear it on the surface, you're like, man, I ain't doing that. But then they give you the facts behind it and say, here's the reasons you got to do it this way. Here's the reasons you got to terminate this way. Then it kind of led into more coaching talk and more development talk. And they always gave the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, I know we talk about all the promos, and that's what we do, right? That's what a good promo is. They give you the reason. They believe it. It doesn't matter if you're a heel or a baby. They believe whatever they're saying. And that's what this came across. And to this day, I look at that person as a mentor, even though I haven't talked to them in literally 15 years. But I lean back on those truth talks and those times where they just kind of broke it down. And like I said, they didn't sugarcoat. Like if they had to put me in my place, they put me in my place. If they heard something a little bit, off color, they hit it. But they also didn't hold back. Even the language, they didn't hold back. There wasn't that politically correct crap, right? It was a from the heart talk. And to me, that's what a truth talker is. They got to come from the heart.
Agreed.
Definitely. I like that.
I can hear that. I can envision that. I think I've had a couple of bosses like that too.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
All right, Adrian, how about yourself? Have you had any truth talking bosses or someone else?
Man, definitely. That's an understatement. When you're working in the restaurant industry, simply put, it's a cutthroat business, especially once you get to a certain level, the truth talkers, the truth talker that I can definitely say, like, this is probably the most honest, most blunt person it was a chef that I worked under for a couple years. And on the outside eye, most people would say this guy's a dick. This guy is a jerk. He just says whatever the hell's going on in his mind and he keeps it moving. And while, yes, a lot of that is true, I will say a lot of that is true. We gotta understand his vantage. And I learned more under him, and I slowly became that same type of person, unfortunately, in some cases. Um, Being a chef is hard, man. Like, you're working long hours, you're generally underpaid, and you're working in some challenging conditions, whether it's super hot, if you're working a certain station, you're working with sharp equipment, tight spaces, and the biggest X factor of it all is the simple stress of being under a time constraint. If my dinner service is only from 7 to 10, I have to maximize those 3 hours. And I can't afford to play around or figure things out because people are spending money. And again, once you get to a certain level where people are spending a good amount of money, you know they damn sure expect it to be knocked out the park. So this chef, even though, yes, he was always hyped up on Red Bull at the least or recreational drugs, that does happen. Even though you get ramped up on that and you're working 12 to 15 hours a day, yes, that happens also. You still have to deliver this product. And this chef, one of the best guys that I've ever worked for, I would run through a brick wall for this man. The reason why I loved him is because he spoke the truth. If you if you didn't deliver, he would tell you that. If you did deliver, he would just nod. He didn't pat you on the back. He didn't give you a hug. He just went, because that's what you were supposed to do. Because that's why I'm paying you this, Adrian. You're supposed to deliver this consistently. And it was just that level of excellence that in other situations professionally, I didn't really get that.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy in particular, he pushed me, he challenged me. And once I was blessed to have the opportunity to lead a kitchen or be a sous chef and work my way to running my own kitchen, running my own store, running my own branch, essentially, of multiple stores, I attribute a lot of those disciplines to that guy, that one angry jerk who always was hopped up on Red Bull or recreational drugs, who didn't get any sleep, and he was a hard ass, but he spoke the truth. And for that, I'm forever thankful for him.
It's so interesting how the people you're mentioning have been inspirational, right? Have been people that maybe in the moment we dislike or we just think like what's wrong with you, but they stay with you, right? And it brings me back to a
Definitely.
quote my dad would say when I'd come home from school complaining about the tough teachers that I had that would make you work, that would not let you off the hook, and we're essentially like the little generals inside their own classroom, and so like those are the teachers that really care for you. Those are the
Yep.
ones, those are the leaders that give a damn and are worthwhile in your life. I'm not gonna For my example, I'm not gonna deviate too much because I think we're taking the spin on leadership. I'm gonna go back all the way to fifth grade to my fifth grade principal, who was relatively diminutive man, but man, beyond that, his stature physically was nothing compared to, if you heard him speak, you ever hear him speak, it was watching like someone who was 7 foot tall. Like this, his voice, his eloquence, the way he imparted on you, and his big thing was going to college, right? And we're fifth graders, right? So we're very impressionable. We're trying to find our way. So we can be impacted. But it was my parents. It was all our parents. He would rally the troops. He'd get them involved in the PTA. He'd get them going. When you're talking about first generation immigrant families, that's hard to do with working class folks. They're
Hmm.
holding down two or three jobs, and you're pulling them in to do school based work. It was incredible to see this man work. and the impact he had because of the way he spoke, because it was in a very direct way of saying your children are 10 years old. The next 8 years will fly by in the blink of a second, in the blink of an eye, I should say. And it was this idea of like, this is what the next step is. You need to be doing this, and this in order for your kids to have a chance at a better life, to have a chance at a 4-year college, to have a chance at a at a higher paying job. And it was interesting how many parents took that to heart. And I still talk to some of those folks, and I say, do you remember
Nice.
him? And everybody has good memories of him. Later on, things shifted and whatnot, but I remember going back in high school, and he was, like you said, maybe I didn't talk to him every day, maybe I didn't see him on a daily basis, but I still tell him that field trip he took us to USC, which ended up going to UCLA, which he hated, but and we talk football, and he's like, oh, we're gonna beat you guys, whatever, because that's like the rivalry over here on the West Coast, where it was back then. um, and he said, it's interesting because I didn't think about that way. I was a lot younger. I was really motivated. I really just wanted to make do right by the kids that I was working with and working for, and the families. But the fact that you're here now as an adult, as a grown man, and you're still remembering this, and now in my position, like you were saying, taking positions of leadership, where I'm using a lot of those same skills. I'm using a lot of same skills in the way that I treat folks, is incredible. And that is the definition of a truth talker to me. Is like, you're not just admiring, you're taking in who they are, right?
Mm.
Definitely.
You're almost kind of imitating in a positive way, I should say.
So what's interesting about what we just all talked about, right? We didn't give anything that's current. Like we all just went back into our past. And if we jump back to episode 1, if you guys haven't listened to episode 1, you guys out there listening now, jump back. There's a really cool um jumping back, where we talked about some promos that touched our lives in the beginning. It's interesting. There's a parallel of what we just talked about, the truth talkers that spoke to us and affected our lives, and to this day we have taken things from that, and we didn't realize it at the time, right? We didn't
Definitely.
realize what those words were being spoken into us. Relating it back to wrestling, like I can go back to my Ole Anderson one. I hated Ole, but now I can look
Mm,
back and be like, dang, that dude had it, right? And that dude was the real crux to get me in the building, not Dusty. And it's kind of like you go back and you look at these things and you don't realize how it affected you. It sucked you into this crazy world of professional wrestling as a fan, but it still affected you. And we still remember it to this day. And it's like
definitely.
you never know what words are going to affect you, or what words you've said to somebody else that affect them. And it's really cool to hear things come back. And I think it's also important, like you just said, Adalid, to kind of go back and speak to that person and say, hey, thank you for that. Thank You spoke these words into me 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. Because when they hear that, you don't know how that makes them feel on the inside. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Definitely.
I want to be able to go back. I wish I could reconnect with that boss and be like, hey, thank you. Because these little pieces of guidance you gave me, these little nuggets, man, I still use them to this day.
Agreed,
Yeah, that's
agreed.
awesome.
And that's a great segue, because I feel like this whole next segment is going to be a love fest, and it's almost like a virtual thank you to all the people we're going to highlight here. Um, and with that, thank you, Greg, for the great segue there. We're going to be looking at the truth talkers, and we're going to be looking at those folks that talked us into the building enough that you really start questioning how much is blurred in this line between truth and fiction. And we all thought about very very thoughtfully about who these individuals were, and what made you believe specifically about what they were saying. So I know that we had some thoughts here. I don't know if maybe Greg can get us started here with who's that truth talker as a pro wrestler that stood out to you and really impacted you, like you were saying earlier, as far as the real life context. Who's that person that spoke to you but you didn't realize was going to hook you in?
Well, in our example today, is the Miz, because to me, when you look at the Miz, I've always respected what he's done. I've always looked at him, and he's been very professional. He's been
Hmm.
very good, and I think now he's finally getting some of that respect. But I think he's that person who, if you really dig into his whole story, Everybody says it's the real world, real world, real world. The dude went to UPW and tried to learn himself how to wrestle. It wasn't even about like he went real world WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But then you hear all these different things and all the learnings and all of that. And then what happened on Talking Smack that one time? Or
Mm-hmm.
and what's wild about
Classic.
that
It's
is
amazing.
I never watched that show. Like I just
Right.
didn't. But I did that week. I don't know why. I have no clue why I turned it on. And when he did that, I was just so dumbfounded
Right.
because you could feel it. You could feel the passion and you could feel the truth. And you didn't just feel it from him, you felt it hit Daniel Bryan right in the heart. And it was like to the point where he walked off and you're like, is this real? Is it not?
Right.
And when you hear
Oh
about
yeah.
it later, he walked off because he was mad because he got
Mm.
called out. I don't know that he's the biggest truth talker, and when I look at across all the ones who have ever influenced me, but that promo showed me more. And I'm like, man, that should be something that's on replay at the Performance Center, on replay in
Hell yeah.
OVW, on replay at
100%.
all these other places that says this, this is the passion. This comes across. And if you remember, that was the talk of the industry for
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm
weeks.
the coward. Wait, let me tell you about a coward. Let me tell you about a guy who. This is my show. My show. And I'm
There was
sick.
so much truth in that though, and it's not just 'cause around that same time is when he wasn't even on the pay-per-view. There was a pay-per-view right before that, I think, and the IC title wasn't even defended, and I think that's kind of what started that conversation. And what's interesting is Daniel Bryan was always the people and the man of the people, right?
Right.
And I love wrestling and I love wrestling. He called him out. He point blank said, "You love it so much, freaking quit here and go wrestle. Go do what you got to do." And that to me was saying basically, you're a sellout, Daniel. You're a sellout.
Mm.
You're sitting here. You're here for the money. You're not here for nothing else. You could go wrestle in Japan. You could go wrestle in Impact. You can go wrestle in GCW. You can go wherever else you want to go, but you're here for the money. And, and I was like, dang, because that's what I got out of that.
Yeah.
And then um he did talk about like he wrestles a certain style. Okay, it is what it is, but he's right. He hasn't had injuries. He didn't have any of that, right? He's main evented WrestleMania and arguably should have been at a higher level on a regular basis, right, wrong, or indifferent. But he's a personality. But he's also a hard worker. And the frustration I think that's coming out there is when you look back at Miz, he's trusted.
Yeah.
He was trusted to be in there with The Rock and Cena. He's trusted even to this day. Where did Logan Paul start?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Bad Bunny, where did he start? You start looking at who do they put him in the ring with? They put him with Miz. Because arguably he's the safest, best worker they have for that style in the company. And
Mm.
that's the frustration that's coming out. That appreciate me, appreciate what I've done for this company, appreciate what I do day in and day out. And when he's looking across at somebody who he doesn't feel like appreciates him, who does call him a coward, who I thought was cheap. And another discussion. I know we don't talk about a lot of character stuff on here, but my opinion of Daniel Bryan is was he over? Was he really over? Or was the yes chant over? Because if you
Mm.
think about it, Ty Dillinger was the same thing 10, 10, 10. And then they killed it, they squashed it. And he's been nothing ever since. Now, Daniel Bryan was tapering off big time until he left. And has he been as over as he ever was with the yes chant? No. And so when you really look at it and dig deep, as great as he is in the ring, he as well was a character. And Miz has taken that same character, evolved it, changed it. Even to this day, that promo I think was 7 years ago. To this day, you think about what he's done, how he's done it, whether it's Miz TV, whether it's Miz and Mrs. All these different things, all the press, everything. The dude does more than anybody else in that company except Cena over the past 20 years. And that frustration came out. But there's a part of that promo that I sit back and go, He's frustrated, but he's so freaking good that he threw some work into it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And the way you know he did is when he's going off and he mentions the other titles, that's working. When he mentions the women's titles, that's working.
Yeah.
But when he says, put that camera on me, dude, that's working. That's being aware of your surroundings, being aware that I'm going off, but I'm going to milk this storyline wise too. He set up an
Definitely.
entire storyline that could have happened. They never really milked it like they could have, but he knew what he was doing. And I'm like, dude, but that right there, I was a fan of The Miz before that. But after that, I was like pulling for him for everything. I'm like, man, because especially think 7 years ago, we had no promos like that. Nothing. Like
Yeah.
in the past few years, you've gotten some more passion. You've gotten some better promos. You got some better
Right.
interviews and confrontations and stuff. But man, at that moment, whew, it was, I just thought it just was on fire. And I think they missed a huge opportunity to roll with that. But man, that to me, one of the best literally of all time.
Mm.
This
I
is
agree.
yeah.
Sure.
I feel like this is the era of the unaired promos. I mean, it aired, but let's be real. It was Talking Smack. Who was watching Talking Smack, right?
Right.
I think of the rise of the New Day. Maybe we'll visit those. How did they
Mm,
get? How did they even get their foot in the door? It was all those backstage promos that no one really saw the light of day of. But you
Mhm.
spoke on something. This idea of desperation, right? And it's almost like he was just unloading every criticism that he's heard, probably in person, online, read, maybe even from Holbrook, and maybe even from Vince, for all we know, right? And
Definitely.
he's directing at Daniel Bryan as this representation of what you said, the real, true professional wrestler who knows all the moves and knows all the technical moves. And we know the backstory of Miz. He was always a wrestling fan, right? How did he quote unquote get over on Real World? He was obnoxious. He was cutting promos on everybody in the house. Like
exactly.
my fiance, who doesn't even didn't watch wrestling really beyond like The Undertaker before we met. He's like, oh, that's the guy from Real World, right? It's like, oh, he was so obnoxious, but we watched because he drew us
Hmm.
into that was how she got drawn into the building. But man, I love Daniel Bryan, and it just broke my heart because I could tell he couldn't. The only thing he could do was punch him, and he was not about to do that. And he did later say some version that's like, I just wanted to he's like hit him across the face or slap him. But this little moment where he goes to pick up the belt, so professional because he knows he's caught up in the moment, but he's
Hmm.
like, I got to sell the tickets, so I'm still on WWE, TV here. Let me pick up the title and let me finish off this promo, in character. And so brilliant. He's so underrated, and I agree. It's one of those
Definitely.
cases where if you gave him a chance to shine like this on TV, wow. But I just think he's such a company guy. He would never even dare go off script. He's like such by the book. Like, all right, give me what I got to do, and I'll do what you
Hmm.
need me to do.
Yeah, I think the
Definitely.
other thing that
Definitely.
he jumped in on there, like you just said, that understanding I'm still one part of the company. When Renee interrupted him and he went off on her, what did he say? This is a great show. I mean, he like praised the
Yeah,
show. He said
yeah,
talking
Right.
smack. I mean, he's like,
hmm
he gets it, man. He gets it
hmm
so well. Like,
yeah. And that's a
oh,
very Miz line that I picked up on. It's kind of like the
hmm,
Vinceisms that you ever hear. Like his Mizism to me is thank you very much. It's almost like this little
mm,
within promos. It's like let me think. Thank you
hmm,
very much, and then
Mm.
he'll move on to the next piece. But it's in a very polite way.
Definitely. Definitely. Miz is definitely one of the most underrated superstars of the modern era of wrestling. A lot more people need to be able to give him his flowers without feeling like you're selling out, like he's just some WWE uh just creation. Like this dude actually grinded from the bottom, worked his way up, got himself over, made some opportunities for himself, and honestly he stayed healthy for a
Yeah,
majority of his career. So
hmm,
that in itself, in this day and age of professional wrestling, is something to be admired. and to be respected. So salute to the Miz.
Hmm.
That promo definitely, like you said, is one of the best ever for sure.
And I'll say to piggyback on what you just said, he continues to get better too in the ring.
Mhm.
Like he, I remember a couple months ago he did a springboard, and I was like, "What the? What just happened?" Like I mean, I know he did a kip up, which was a little bit weak, but he did it. I can't do it, so I can't say nothing about that. But he did a springboard one time. He hit it, and even in the middle of the match, he goes, "I hit the springboard. Didn't you see I hit the springboard?" I'm like, this dude. First off, the fact he's still at this point in his career trying to do stuff like that, trying to do little things that shock the audience, right? Um, and a skill was. But then what does he do? He promotes it. He gets that part. He understands I gotta still say something about it because that's me. That's the Miz. The Miz is gonna brag.
And not to like belabor the point, but you spoke on him being trusted, right? With
Mm,
Rock, with Cena, with Logan Paul. But you go back, he was being put in this place ever since like the Divas tournaments or that.
mm,
There's that terrible thing where he got the number wrong when they were calling in or something like that. That's
Oh
his
yeah.
meme now. But think about it now. He was host of he was doing all these hosting gigs, even at the last WrestleMania, right? When he did the whole Snoop Dogg, he was interrupted by Snoop Dogg like 2 nights in a row, whatever it was, right? To be put in those segments, it's like it's incredible because that's how much he's trusted, that's how much he's valued, and as much as we want to pigeonhole him, trust me, if he showed up in GCW tomorrow and he just got fired, that shit would be a sellout. So
oh yeah.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, we talk about all things college football. The Life and Times Pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it.
Adrian, who is your truth talking pro wrestler that drew you into the building by virtue of the way that they spoke to your heart?
All right, so this guy, he's pretty polarizing at this point of his career and within the current landscape of professional wrestling. But one thing about him, love him or hate him, he was always great on the mic. And a lot of what he said, at least I felt, a lot of what he said was the truth. So, my guy that I'm going to talk about is Phil Brooks, CM Punk.
mm,
And the promo that I want to put out, first off, Phil has a number of promos that can easily be applied to Truth Talk, and all of this stuff. The first promo that I thought immediately was just the promo that he had when he returned to AEW from his hiatus, and he cut his promo. He had his real world heavyweight championship in the red bag in the sack, and he cut his promo and he said, "Hey, tell me when I'm telling a lie." And the reason why I wanted to do that was more so of the dig of, hey, the only thing softer than these wrestlers are the fans that are the only thing softer than these fans are the wrestlers that they cheer for. Like, I love that. That got a serious pop out of me. But I thought back, I said, no, Adrian, I want to challenge myself and really look at a promo where that encapsulates the truth that Punk would talk. And the promo that I pulled up was when Punk had his rivalry against Raven. ROH days, CM Punk is definitely a heel at this point. Everyone thought he was a dick, which, I mean, it's definitely truth to that. But and Raven came to ROH. He was a conquering babyface. He was a legend at this point. Not so much because of his many accolades, but more so because of the journey that Raven went through to even get to this point. Because all of these guys, all of these former ECW guys, they were, to be frank, they weren't living, they weren't surviving. And Raven not only beat some addictions, beat some problems in his life to get himself together and to at least be able to walk out on us in a wrestling ring. So that in itself got great respect from a lot of those ROH fans. Definitely got respect from myself. But what it ultimately did was provide a great promo and a great feud between CM Punk and Raven.
I hate you. The reason in my heart of hearts why I hate you is because I didn't know any better when I was a little kid. When my dad came home smelling like beer, I thought it was a hard day's work he was doing. He was out at the bar. I didn't realize work meant unemployment office. I thought an old style, a pack a day, was the norm. Raven, my father is exactly like you. Things aren't supposed to be this way. I'd shake your hand like a normal man, but see, the truth is I don't respect you. I hate you. I hate you for everything you've pissed away, everything I scrape and I claw for that I haven't even earned yet, that you got handed to you, and you flushed down a toilet. For what? For pills? For booze? For alcohol? For women? I am born of your poison society, so on the 17th of July, I will become a monster, and your time in Ring of Honor will be done. And that is a promise, because this is true. This is real. This is straight edge.
Did you hear that? You are a monster, Punk, in the back. No, but man, that was a terrific promo. The reason why I love that promo is obviously CM Punk is straight edge, so he doesn't do alcohol or drugs or that sort of thing. And his part of his character was that he was very proud of that. Oh, almost too proud of it, to the point where he was better than everyone and he looked down on everyone. But the real reason why I love that promo is it just seemed like, to me, and I want y'all's opinion on this, it seemed like Punk wasn't just cutting a promo on Raven, but he was cutting a promo on his dad. It seemed like he was shooting at both of them. Like, I grew up idolizing you, and you hurt me through your actions, through your bad decisions. And now I have to work behind you. I have to do things 2 times or 3 times as much as whatever you had to in your previous generation, because of those bad decisions that you made to prove myself. So screw all of this respect. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to put you down, and I'm going to move forward because I'm straight edge and I'm better than you. Like I just love the passion. I just love the hate. When you tell someone I hate you, that means something, you know? I can write that for you to say to you, and everyone's going to hear you say it, and they're going to clutch their pearls. Like, no one said, you don't just say I hate you. When you say I hate you, it's an element of realness there. It's an element of, oh shit, like, yo man, like, it's not a I don't like you or you suck. It's I hate you. I hate your existence. Like, that digs deep. And that's why I love that promo.
It feels like a classic argumentative essay on steroids. You know, it's like, I'm going to pinpoint why I hate you, but it doesn't end there. I'm going to draw this line where I'm going to be specific with it. And you're right. There is some connection, some real personal stuff that Punk always carries around with his promos. They always seem to creep up, you know, this idea of being wronged by family. That's a big theme in his promos. And I think that's where I noticed with Punk across his promos is a perfect kind of, you said it yourself, it encapsulates the thematics of his promos, right? I've been wronged. My family has wronged me. You represent the people that have wronged me, and I'm going to impart almost very Miz-like, right? I'm going to make you the target of all this dislike, all this hate, because you
Right.
represent everything that I want. That he says you pissed away, right? Everything that I'm working for, you already had a chance, and you decided it wasn't worth it. Whereas me, I represent the complete opposite. I didn't expect you to choose this promo. I did, frankly, think at some point we were going to do the pipe bomb because it's the
Mm,
one that everyone talks about. But I think
right.
this is so formative of Punk because it really is the first time he has a platform on TV with some of a regular audience that's going to be repeated. That you can see it, you can see that passion on that he's wearing his heart on his sleeve, and even I think even Colt in the back's like, oh crap, like what?
Right.
He's really going off. I don't know how to react on this. He has this very stunted look, and R.I.P. Daphne there too, who's
Right.
a tremendous compliment to that whole piece that he had there. But it really makes me hearken to those times when we had that really, not that he's ever not been hungry, but that young hungry Punk that still had that huge chip on his shoulder for real.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he still has a chip on his shoulder to this
Oh,
day. Like it's
every
yeah.
day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just him.
I think I have a slight different twist on it, on what I saw. So he's talking about his dad, right? And he talked about, I thought it was normal. And then he realizes at some point, this is just not normal, right? He's not supposed to be smoking and doing drinking and all
Right.
that. But he talked about looking up to Raven.
Hmm.
And he talked about, so now you think about so many wrestling fans, you hear them say, wrestling was my out. Wrestling was my not drug, but like it was my way of escaping my reality. My
Definitely.
reality being crappy parents, crappy home life, crappy whatever, right? Social life, bullying, whatever it may be. And that's what I kind of got out of that. It was like my escape, Raven, was you. You were my escape from my father. You were my escape from this crap I'm dealing with. And now you're the same as him. And it's like almost like there's a
That's a good
disappointment in
point,
his
bro.
voice that was like, I'm taking this out on you. And yes, there's the connection of his dad, but it was just more of a, because like you said, he pissed it away basically. You had all of this, you had what I'm going for, but you had it, and I was going for it because you had it. And now the way he didn't term it this way, but the way it's that type of thing, especially you've heard it in wrestling, never meet your heroes.
Definitely.
And that was a never meet your heroes type of promo to me. And I was just like, man, you felt it. And I think the unsung hero in that is Colt, because I wasn't in the Ring of Honor so much at that moment, but we know their real life relationship. So I would imagine at
Mm-hmm.
that time people knew too. His reactions or lack thereof, nothing over the top, nothing like, oh yeah, or none of that. He wasn't co-signing. He was just standing there like, whoa, he's really going off, like you just said. That helped sell it, and I
Definitely.
think there's that little piece of it. But yeah, that was a really good one. I'm really happy you pulled that one because I totally forgot about that one.
Let's break kayfabe for the listeners, but guys, we communicate in advance like, yo, this is what we're gonna do. Just so everyone can get an idea of what's going on. But I saw both of you all's, and then I said, "Oh no, I can't just come with this weak sauce shot at the Bucks and stuff. Nah, I gotta up the ante, man." So
Thank you for sharing that. You really got me thinking about a feud that I need to revisit, which is that Raven Punk feud, because that was,
definitely.
I wasn't super following ROH, and I caught it like within a couple months of that because it made the rounds, and it was I always loved Raven even after
Hmm.
ECW, and it was so cool to see him in that feud. Well, gentlemen, I have one promo that I want to share with you. Someone who I've come to just, it's just gonna be a love fest, like I said. I've come to adore this guy. He is the king of Yonkers. He has an extreme gift of gab. With, if you thought Punk had a chip on his shoulder, holy crap, does this guy have a chip on his shoulder in the most positive way ever? Because if he loves you, he loves you. This is a promo by Eddie Kingston, and to set it up, I had actually thought about presenting the promo he did when he debuted with AEW. He wasn't signed yet. He actually did one of those open challenges with Cody Rhodes. And that promo was all about not getting a chance, how, Cody had been given everything and here he is still struggling. And there was a lot of truth talk there because legitimately, even when he was at shows here in LA, he was already selling his gear. He was ready to call it quits because says, I can't even afford to pay my mortgage on wrestling. I need to just hold down. And he's a union laborer. Like he had a really decent job that he could just quit wrestling and make a living like normal person like everybody else. But that's the beauty of it, right? These pro wrestlers, and I think this is for the love of the game almost, right? They're gonna sacrifice that daily living because they love and they can speak to it. This promo in particular, this promo in particular takes place inside the NWA rebooted set. That quick sliver of a couple of years, or it felt like a couple of months, where it was on YouTube, and it was legitimately one of the best things that I was watching, and probably have been since. And I know you, Adrian, you were there live for a couple of those tapings too, right?
Greg, I know Greg.
But Greg was too.
Yeah,
amazing. So you guys got the feel for the studio wrestling, right? And just to know in the back end, like how much, the backdrop you'd think secondary, but how much thought went into that. And I'll pick your brain. That's another point, how that was live. But he came on. It's a very classic throwback. He's addressing Elijah Burke or the Pope, whatever gimmick he was using at the time. And he has his heavies, who I didn't recognize at the time. And he just come in. The announcer is Dave Marquez, who's like the stalwart kind of out here in the West Coast. He's always up to something, always scheming with another company through Championship Wrestling. He had that association with NWA, and he's the straight man. And usually Dave Marquez, if you ever watched the promos he did with NWA or anywhere else, really, he has this kind of like goofy kind of disposition. He's kind of reacting. Right. That LA Knight promo about the shoes, he's really being comical. He doesn't do that here. He plays it really straight because the way that Eddie speaks here is so truthful. He talks about Homicide, right? This wrestler, Homicide, ROH, CZW, going back to, Jersey All Pro, what have you. And he exalts them and say, how dare you insult, Homicide. He gave up, all these people are stealing moves. They're in bigger companies and taking his moves. And it's like, I didn't commit because of Homicide, because of what that man did there. How do I step back and just disconnect myself from the pro wrestling sense and say, wait, did that really happen? And of course, he speaks truth, right? And it's those moments that this is a minute-long promo. It's not very long. Mm-hmm. He has 15-minute-long promos when he was in Chikara, and it's there. The flame is there, but he's a little bit more deliberate. He's thoughtful. This is peak Eddie Kingston.
Because the NWA told me I gotta relax. I had a screwdriver in my pocket. I went under the ring. I got me a wrench, and they said, Eddie, please don't do that. When I should go right after your eyes. I should go after your tongue and rip it out your mouth. Look at me. Look at me. Yeah, put him in front of you, but look at me and understand something. Don't you ever in your life disrespect Homicide like that. That man built New York City. Yeah. That man made stars. But all those people like me who are champions in other companies, he made. And he is my blood. Because of him, I didn't commit suicide. Do you understand that? That's reality. That's real. I died for that man. I cried for that man. And you disrespect him, I should bury you where you stand.
Ooh, I'm hyped.
Yeah, he cooked.
Ooh, thoughts, gentlemen. What do we think about Eddie?
One thing about Eddie Kingston, man, he just looks so legit in the sense of like a legit, not a pro wrestler in the sense of, the Vince McMahon big body, jacked guys of the 90s and so forth, or the AEW guys are flipping around and all of this stuff. This guy looks like he would run up on you, like he looks like a stick up kid, like, yo, I like what you got on. Give me that. That's what, that's what Eddie reminds me of. he's just a true throwback in the sense of when you actually feared a lot of when you
Mhm.
feared these wrestlers of past. He's a true throwback.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like that short piece right there, that's perfect, Eddie, right? It's that passion. And like you look at it, and if I was on the other side of that, I'd be like, are you about to kill me for real? Like, are you, because that passion came out. But the other thing is, what's interesting about what he did is he said, Homicide built New York City. You heard the pop, right? They're sitting
Definitely.
in Atlanta, bro.
Yeah.
They are not sitting in New York.
Mm-mm.
So that the way he's delivering that and the way the passion, people tap into that quickly to the point that people in Atlanta cheered the fact he said he built New York City. And that's a disconnect. And that's not just Atlanta, New York, that's any cities. But it's like,
Hmm.
yo, there was a nice little pop, and that's not a huge crowd. So for what that was a nice pop. When he said that, that connected with me because that tells you he's connected with that audience and he's tapped into something there where they're just like, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Even if they don't know what he's talking about, they're with you. And that's the type of promo that the girlfriend can be walking by the TV, the person who doesn't watch wrestling, they go, he's real. That I need. Can you show me that again? Like, that's what that was. It wasn't comedy. It wasn't ha ha. It wasn't none of that. I mean, he started out with a little bit, but it was like he grabbed it. And that is that person that could grab you and just roll with it. Eddie as a whole is a challenge with somebody like an AEW. I think he has to have some boundaries put on him, but loose boundaries when I say that.
Right.
But Eddie is an asset to any company. Like you just said, he's the perfect man. Bring him in, and he's the everyman, but he's like, and I'm gonna say Dusty because you look at Dusty, he was
Mm.
not the bodybuilder. He was
Yeah.
not he was the everyman, and that's Eddie. Eddie's the everyman
Hmm.
from New York.
Yeah.
Dusty was the everyman from Texas. And you can just grab those certain demographics that are just like, man, I'm tapping into it. And when I say demographics, I don't mean like he appeals to just one. He's going to appeal to several
Mm-hmm.
that
Right.
everybody else is not going to. Right? He's going to grab your
We've all know someone like Eddie Kingston.
yes. And the other piece is we want to be like that.
Oh yeah.
There's times we want to go off on somebody like that. We want to do that. He's almost like an Austin. I mean, in a way, where people are like, oh, I hate Vince McMahon. I hate Vince McMahon, but I'm living vicariously through Austin. When Eddie cuts a promo like that, you know you can picture somebody that, man, I want to go off on somebody like that,
Right.
whether it's a coworker or somebody.
Oh man, yeah, and you kind of hit on it there, where like he's the everyman, right? He's relatable. It didn't really matter that he was speaking about somebody you didn't know. It's, oh yeah, I can relate to feeling that passionate about defending my
Hmm.
friend, and you insulting someone I care about, right?
Hmm.
And taking it from there. So yeah, brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant,
man.
brilliant talker.
And shout out to the Power audience because y'all notice how they popped when he said, he built New York wrestling or whatnot,
Hmm.
but how silent everyone got once he mentioned unaliving himself.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everyone was locked in on every single
Hmm.
word. And I mean, also for context, it is a smaller group of audience members, but a lot of times when you're watching wrestling, someone will say something and the crowd gives the wrong response, if that makes any sense, where it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
Hmm.
he's saying something that you shouldn't be popping for. Like what he
Yeah.
just said, you should be feeling right now. You should be
Hmm.
digesting that. And that crowd, they were locked in on every single word. And, it was perfect. It was a great group effort by everyone involved for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love it. And you kind of peeled, I don't want to peel back the curtain, but you guys gave me, I think we got to know a show idea. Is like the audience. The audience is rolling the promo,
Hmm.
right? yeah, we talk about the wrestler manipulating or setting the tone, but a lot of the times is what's the disposition of the audience and how much are they ready and willing to give you as a performer what you need, the space, the
Definitely.
silence, the cheers, the
Yeah,
reaction.
I think that's interesting because that crowd is a different crowd.
Hmm.
Definitely.
That crowd that was going to those was not an ECW crowd, was not an AEW crowd. They didn't give a crap about flippity floppity. It was a throwback crowd.
Hmm.
And it was a
Definitely.
crowd who was there for the ride. And I think you just explained it perfectly, Adrian, that it was like, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm with you. Oh, whoa, you just hit me with
Right.
that. Wait a second, and but that's what they were there for. They weren't there to get themselves over to chant and do all that stuff. Those things happened with
Yep.
certain people and question mark and different others, but not with Eddie because they knew what Eddie was. And so I think I love that idea about talking about crowds because that is a very different crowd that would go to Power.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, COVID messed up everything, bro.
Uh,
COVID,
But you know
man.
what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Why
Here's
COVID?
the thing, though.
Why?
I'm gonna throw a positive on that though. If
Okay.
it's not for COVID, is Eddie in AEW? If it's not for COVID, is
mm,
Good
Starks
point.
in AEW? Is Thunder Rosa?
yeah.
I mean, you think about the opportunities some of these talents got, especially like an Eddie, because Starks, we knew Starks was going to be boom. Thunder
For
Rosa,
sure.
boom.
Hmm.
Eddie been around for a long time,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so for
that's
Eddie
fair.
to get that opportunity, I don't think he gets that opportunity if it's not for COVID.
It was his renaissance.
Yeah,
Hmm
makes sense.
Because that happened to him. I mean, that open challenge was in the middle of I think an empty building.
It was.
Hmm.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember hearing Jericho one time talking about him. Jericho said he had no idea who he was, and he's like, "Where's this dude been?" And like shocked, like, "Holy crap, we've been missing out." And but yeah, so COVID just hurt NWA so badly. But there were so many. The positive side is that so many of those talents have gone on to bigger and better things. I mean, look at
Yeah.
LA Knight.
Sure.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
Yeah.
you start looking
Yeah.
around at some of the people who were there at that time.
I love that studio format. I could watch that for days, honestly. Even the old stuff, the new stuff, it's such a great vehicle for the promo, you know?
And I know we're kind of getting off on a different tangent, but this is part of what we talk about, right? Into the building, the old studio wrestling, even Power was built around the promos.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
It was
definitely,
not built
definitely.
around the best matches. I mean, it was
Yeah.
built around the promos. And I mean, you go back to the old studio, it was the Horseman coming out 3 or 4 times in the
Yeah.
show, Dusty coming out, and
Hmm.
in this one you would have it was a lot of talking and and during Power, and I think that's what made that show so good is because I'm sure they had some parameters on them, and at the time Logano was helping run it, so he understands how to format that stuff,
Hmm.
but it was built around that. You may have a good match here and there, that's cool, but for the most part, it was enhancement.
Right. And building to the big show,
Exactly.
theoretically,
Yeah.
Hmm
which is
It's very,
perfect.
very
Perfect
classic
for me.
formatting. I
Yeah,
loved it.
man.
I miss it.
Yeah,
I miss
Power
that. I miss
was,
that whole
man,
thing.
that was a terrific short amount of time of quality. That was, man, that
hmm
was so fun. That was some of the most fun wrestling that. And the thing about Power, and this episode isn't about Power, but since we're talking about Power, I gotta give them props, man. It was so many wrestling fans from different areas of the country that were just locked
hmm
in, watching YouTube at whatever time, whatever
Yeah.
day that it premiered. Because I know for a fact, because I used to admin a live, like a thread, a comment thread of Power, and people were locked the fuck in.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
hmm
it it made sense, man. It made
I mean,
sense. It
It
was
was a
so
rare
NWA
damn
was
good.
hot,
appointment
man.
viewing still. Yeah. In the age of the internet.
Yeah, and it was I mean, even going to the crowd, what they would do live, the interaction, the stuff they did in between matches. Dave Marquez was awesome. I mean, he was just so good. Billy, but
Yeah.
Logano would come out and talk to everybody. Marquez talked to everybody. It was just like, they move people around, do all the different things, and the wrestlers were so accessible, like before the matches and after the matches, and it was just like it was like a family. It's like you just like had this one huge big family. Everybody's in on it, and it was just. But like right before the pandemic, they were going to have the Crockett Cup here in Atlanta.
Yep.
Down there, so we have an arena near the airport. It's a smaller arena, but it's called, I forgot what it's called, but it's where the Skyhawks or the
The
Gatorade League
women's
play.
basketball team play too,
And then
right?
the Dream plays
The Dream.
there. Lee Haney actually just 8-time Mr. Olympia just had his bodybuilding competition there, and it was almost sold out.
Wow.
It was almost sold out for the Crockett Cup. I had my tickets, and I bought them day one. Man, I was sitting on, I think, second row, and then the pandemic hit and nothing. But it was just like, man, it was the momentum they had was ridiculous. But but if you think back at the momentum they had, you had some of the best talkers around. Ricky Starks was killing it. Eddie Kingston was killing it. Aldis was killing it. Eli Drake, aka LA Knight, was killing it. Then you had the characters like Thunder Rosa, and you had, I mean, oh man, it was just, and the question mark.
Shout out Marty
Oh
Bell.
my goodness,
Oh,
how did
yeah.
question mark get over like
Marty
that,
Bell.
right? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, question mark coming out and that whole thing. It was just, man, they had so much going on, and they had a
What a
nice mix
time.
of everything.
Well, gentlemen, I could talk NWA
All right, back to
Power.
promos.
I could talk NWA Power. We should just do our promo episode on NWA Power at this point. I mean,
What's
why not?
hilarious
yeah,
is I
man.
came so close. You referenced the Eli Drake shoes promo. That was the one I posted first earlier for this.
Is that right?
For a different one. For a
Nice.
different one.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
something
Nice.
and I was like, man, that's a great promo. And I was like, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. So
And
one
see,
day we're going to go back to that one.
Yeah, and not to again, I'm going to stay on it because I haven't talked about it, but I want to give shout out to Dave Marquez because he's this, mainstay out here where like I've literally been to New Japan shows. I'm like standing behind the camera because I just went to, use a restroom. I'm like, oh, that's Dave Marquez. He's producing this New Japan show. Or, oh, there's Dave Marquez. He's producing, and he's always has a hand in, something pro wrestling related out here in California. So
Nice.
shout out Dave Marquez. Maybe, I don't know, whatever you're doing, dude. It's good shit. So anyway, gentlemen, so we're going to close out our night tonight with our non-wrestling promo of the week. And this is something that I saw, and it's making the rounds, but I had to share it. And apparently some of us hadn't seen it, or some of us saw it today for the first time, which I'm really excited about. This is a promo under the context of a basketball announcer cutting a promo on a basketball player. So the promo we're going to be looking at to close out the night is from Mavs announcer Bryan Damaris, and he cuts a promo on James Harden. And the structure of this promo, I mean, this man must have stayed up that night just writing this up in essay format, because I'm just, as a teacher, as a former teacher, I'm just looking at headline, heading. He introduces the promo. He calls out the producer, feed this into the locker room, and he just breaks down poor James Harden methodically, where I'm envisioning him watching this just bawling. This probably millionaire just bawling because this man just tore him down. And I'll ask this: heel promo or babyface promo? I guess it depends on where you're at.
Definitely a babyface promo. Definitely. He spoke to so many fan bases at one time. So many
notes. I'm telling you in advance, you're welcome for the wisdom I'm about to spew. You wanted a certain coach, they brought in Mike D'Antoni. You want to play a certain style, they played it. You wanted Dwight Howard, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. You wanted Chris Paul, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. They brought in your old friend Russell Westbrook. You want to go to Vegas on off days? You wanted the team to stay over so you could go out at night? They changed the schedule. Enough. I see the bright lights in New York. I want to go there. And all after 1 year, you wanted out. You realized, oh my gosh, I took this guy for granted. They traded Ben Simmons for you. How did they pull that off? You're the point guard. You were holding the reins. And what did you do when you had the reins? You scored 9 points in Game 7 against Boston. You blew a 3-2 series lead. Have you ever had those friends who had bad roommates. They complained about their bad roommates. This guy's terrible. The bad roommate here. They never thought to be self-aware enough that they're the bad roommate. They're the problem. Hey, James, you're the problem. And you're going to go back home and you're going to start swiping right for another team. And there's not going to be anybody left. Because, James, you're not the beard. You're not the system. You're the problem.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree.
As a sports fan, I'm not a big NBA fan, but I pay attention. I pay attention. And as a sports fan, when you see these guys making all of this money, getting all of these opportunities, and then even more so bullying themselves into opportunities. James Harden being number one on my list, I can't cheer for you. And even though, yes, we both enjoy strip clubs, James, you and I, we're on the same page there, my friend. We both love Magic City. But yes, man, you have ruined so many sports franchises. So many. The past 2 years in particular, he's played on teams that should have probably won an NBA championship. But because he failed to deliver, they didn't advance. They lost in massive defeat. It's because of him. That guy, that announcer, props to him. Bryan, he killed it. And you don't have to be a sports fan to know that James Harden has ruined so many fans' dreams of winning an NBA championship. So bravo. That's a terrific promo. And great choice, Adalid. Great choice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to add to that, right? I mean, you asked, is it a baby face or a heel promo? It's going to be all depend on your view at that moment, right? You're going to have people out here who come out, oh, it was so wrong for him to talk to him,
Oh,
him
for
to
sure.
say that. At the end of the day, he didn't say nothing false. And
Right.
you know what? It's not just James Harden. You could probably insert 10 other names in there, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, women's soccer, women's basketball. You put everything in there.
Corporate America.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%,
It's a
100%.
number.
And the thing is, it's like, man, he's so right. When he said that about the roommate, I was like, he's so right. At some point,
Right.
you gotta look in the mirror and be like, it's you. You are the
Mhm.
problem. You're not the beard. You're the problem with that mic drop.
Ooh.
Come on. But I mean, it was priceless. I'm not gonna lie. Now the thing is, it was genius. I felt like it came off genuine. Obviously, he knew what he was gonna say,
Mhm.
but he didn't. I didn't feel like he came off just trying to be a show.
Right.
Like he came off like, I'm just going for it. Yeah. I have not ever seen that guy. I'm not a huge NBA fan either, but it's not one of the Stephen A. Smiths or Shannon Sharps or anything that you see all over everything, right?
Right. Right.
It was like, boom, I'm going to hit you with this and I'm done. And I think
Yeah,
that makes more impact because he's not doing that all the time.
You
that's a
got the
fact.
feeling he was sitting on this and it was just like,
Hmm.
let me wait for him to mess up one more time and then I'm gonna hit the dagger over here.
I mean, we're all thinking it. We're all
Hmm.
thinking it. If you watch NBA, I've been watching more NBA because I've been on sports podcasts. Shout out to Los Pushing Narratives every Friday. Check us out. He pretty much said, "I'm not playing. I refuse."
Right. Because James Harden thinks he's the Triple H to the DX. He's not X Pac. He's not Road Dogg. He's
But he's
not
getting
Bret Dunn.
X-Pac
He's
heat.
Triple H. And it's like, no, you're X Pac. And you might be
Nope.
Hornswoggle.
Check it out.
So you may be the long lost member, the one that just has a small role here and there. But
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks he's something he's not. And I think that's the thing, right? Is not to go down that whole path, but that's one of the big things is like, and it happens in wrestling. These guys start to think that they're something they're not. And at some point you have to sit back and go, I know what I am. Happened to Scottie Pippen back in the day. Scottie thought, oh, I can lead this team. Okay, no, how about he put the shoe up and said, come back, Mike. Mike, I need you to come back and lead me. And James is not going to do that. And that's where I think that call out comes out. It's like, look, we gave you everything. What else do you freaking need? You asked for this player, you asked for that player. You get, man, but the delivery, like you said, Adalid, the delivery, the the cadence, the intentionality of how he said it, the theatrics with the mic
Yeah,
drop, everything. I mean,
Definitely.
he,
Perfect
yeah,
delivery.
just
hmm
great. A great study in what words can do, and you know, to tear someone down. But in this case, like I said, like y'all were saying, there's no lies. This is all research. It's rooted in truth. It was super well structured. It was just it needed to be said apparently. So, and we heard it. So,
Definitely.
with that, I love this segment. I'm really looking forward to hear what y'all bring to the table. This is probably one of my favorite segments because, like you said, promos are all around us, and that's the beauty of this pod. We're looking not just at pro wrestling, but everything else that encapsulates the promo. So, thank you, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. All right, we got a special episode coming up. We're gonna impart you a Christmas episode. So look forward to that. It's gonna be real fun. We're putting a lot of thought into what we're choosing here and some Christmas memories as well. So look forward to that. Follow us on the socials, Talking to the Wrestling Pod, Spotify, YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that bell, and you're gonna be looking for more from us and to you because this is something we love and something that we love to do.
Nah, man, I'm looking forward to the Christmas episode, man. This is going to be a fun one.
for sure. Thank you. And hey, while you're sitting around, the Christmas episode's coming up. So if you like this one, make sure this Christmas when you share it with your friends, share it with your
Mhm.
families. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. That's for sure. I can't believe Christmas is already here.
It's
But
coming
yeah,
around. Well, thank you for giving us the gift of the pod, and we'll see y'all soon.